The biggest gift that you can give yourself is loving your inner child, and here's why. Hi, I'm Amy, and welcome to my channel. I'm a manifestation and relationship mentor, and today's video is going to be around integrating and healing the inner child. I have lots and lots of questions about inner child and lots of requests for a video, so here you go. Well done for manifesting it. So let's get started. So we do hear a lot in the manifesting community, and particularly the self-love community, about the inner child and about how to love your inner child. But there is sort of a disconnect, and I never understood it. And the reason why is because a lot of us are really, really resistant to that part of the psyche, because that part of the psyche contains an awful lot of things that you don't like about yourself. It contains a lot of trauma. It contains a lot of messages that are self-depleting. So I know on my journey, when I was doing inner child work, I did an exercise where I actually called my inner child into my mind and noticed how I felt about it. And I was so resistant to it. I was like, come here and let me love you so that you go away. I didn't want to integrate it because it reminded me of how much trauma I had. It reminded me how sad I was internally. And I felt so sorry for it that I couldn't accept that part of myself. I didn't want it there. And actually what I was doing was I was just re-traumatizing and refragmenting that part of myself which continued to manifest in my adult years. So just so that you're aware, your inner child can be all the way into your teenagers. So what I would first of all do is recommend that in meditation you call up your inner child, intend to see and meet your inner child. And you know, it might not show up as a person, it might show up as a colour or a shape, and that's okay. It's the energy that it carries that you want to really hone in on and really notice how you're feeling towards this part of yourself. Because if you've got negative associations with this part of yourself, you're just going to continue pushing it away, which isn't going to be helpful for you in the long run, because this part of you is manifesting unconsciously. So a lot of the issues that we have with manifesting, particularly matters of the heart, like a relationship. So say you're coming up against obstacles all the time and you don't know why, you don't know what it means about you, you don't know where it comes from. The chances are it's coming from this part of you, because a lot of what we learn about relationships is in childhood. Our first relationship is with our parents. And, you know, our parents' relationship has a massive impact on how we perceive ourselves, relationships in general, marriage, and how we were treated by our parents will have a huge impact of how we treat ourselves. So when we are looking at this part of the psyche, we might think, oh my God, it's a massive mountain. I don't want to climb it. I prefer to just affirm and visualize. I want to encourage you to just try this, because I can guarantee you it's not a huge mountain, because you can integrate this part of you. Because once you know that it's this part of you that's manifesting, you're going to have a much easier time dealing with obstacles and dealing with opposition towards what you want. So let's say, for example, you were abandoned by a parent when you were a child. So when we're children, we start to tell stories about these big traumas, and a lot of the time when we're children, we often self-blame because we haven't got the capacity to really rationalize what's going on. We take on what people say without really questioning it. And also on top of that, when we're children, we can't process heavy emotions. We haven't got the nervous system capacity to process heavy emotions, and they don't go anywhere. They get stuck in the body and it's still manifesting. So what our job is to look at that part of us, look at that unhealed trauma, so we can actually process it properly and reparent that inner child, so that we can start to change the story of what's happening now. Because as you know from the previous videos, we know that a past trauma, we as humans associate what's happening now with a past trauma. So we paste over what's happening now as if it happened 20 years ago. We have the same feelings, the same thoughts, the same beliefs come up, the same triggers come up that are all contained in this part of us. So it's almost like when we are triggered, This inner child possesses us so that we act the same way. It's like it's happening again. And what our job is to catch that while it's happening in the moment and remind ourselves that this isn't the same thing, but let's go back and look at what happened so that we can process it properly. And I also want you to remember that your inner child is with you all of the time. Regardless of whether you want it there or not, it is with you all of the time. So you might as well love and accept it so that it's not so loud, so that it stops possessing you, and so that you can stop sabotaging your manifestations. Because once this part is on board with what you want, once this part is integrated and trusts you, you're going to have so much easier time going towards your manifestations. Just so I can put this into perspective for you, I suffered a lot of emotional abandonment as a child, which meant that I had to deal with a lot of heavy emotions on my own. And in my adult years, this meant that I would not rely on anybody. I would not be authentic about how I felt. But what that actually did, it caused a disconnect between myself and my partner. And he felt like I couldn't trust him. But also, there was a part of me that really needed to be able to rely on somebody. It needed that interdependence. So that need for interdependence and that need for hyper independence were competing all of the time. So in order to heal that, I had to really work with this part of me, the inner child part, to let it know that it was safe to disclose to people I trusted how I was feeling. And it was a process. It started off small, but now I can tell him how I feel. I can tell him what's going on within me because I trust him 100%. But working with that part of me that was consistently emotionally abandoned, I had to really start showing up for that part to not abandon it. I had to get that part to trust me that I wasn't going to abandon it again, and that I would sit with it whilst it had heavy emotions, and that I could trust other people with my emotions. So that now, when I'm triggered or if something bad's happened, I can rely on people. And that actually makes my life much easier. It actually meets a lot of my needs as well. So that is how that process of integrating and meeting your needs works, just as an example. And I can guarantee the beliefs that you have about yourself that say that you're unworthy, that say that you don't deserve it, that say you're defective in some way, I can guarantee that none of those are true. It's just this inner child part of you that still believes it and is still possessing you and is still acting from it. So work with that part, work with healing that part, work with reparenting that part, be there for it because it's not going anywhere. And also you don't want it to either because it's a part of you. That part made you who you were today. There is no need to get rid of a part of yourself. So keep consistently meeting and checking in with that part of you. What does it need today? What do you need to tell yourself today? How can you start showing up for that part of yourself a little bit more today? So I hope you found that video useful. If you did, leave it a like, and if you have any questions, put them in the comments below. I will do my best to answer them, and I will see you in the next video.